Good morning, dear students, and welcome to our next lecture, Semantics. Well, I believe that previous year you learned something about semantics, and I might guess that you are kind of familiar, let's say 50% of the content of this chapter. But that doesn't mean that we neglect this topic because it is useful for you in the future. So, what is semantics? And I'm sure that you will say it's the study of meaning. So, if we say study, but what does it study? It studies the meanings of words, phrases, and sentences. So, is it, when we say meanings, so it's not one meaning or different types of meanings. Are there different types of meanings? We need to learn about these meanings. We need to know if there is this. The answer is yes or no, and then if it's yes, we should know what types of meanings are available for a word. Look at these examples. Fire department. So if I say fire department, fire here is in a position of an adjective. So it's the department that causes fire. But in fact, it is extinguishing department. That is the meaning, the semantic meaning. Wrinkle cream. Again, it is supposed to be a cream that causes wrinkles, but nobody wants wrinkles. So you want cream that reduces wrinkles. Pain pills. Okay, I have pain and I go to the doctor and he say, give me pain pills. Well, but I need relief pills. So when we say it's pain pills, then okay, that's correct. But what makes the meaning different? Why do we use different words? Bomb squad looks like a terrorist gang. So it's people who are responsible for, deactivating bombs. Now, yes, there are different types of meanings. We've got lots of associations we can attach to words. And these associations are kind of related to the context where we use that word. Not necessarily the linguistic context, but also there are other types of context like the psychological one, the social one, the physical one as well. So we've got the objective meaning, which means what the word conventionally means. So it's the conventional meaning of a word, and it's this is the focus of semantics. And we've got the subjective or local. This is what a speaker might want a word to mean on a particular occasion. And when I say particular occasion, it means context of situation, maybe, or even in the psychological state of a person might make him attach certain association to a word he uses while depending on his psychological state. So there are different types of context that that help and facilitate attaching different associations to a word meaning. So when we talk about general and local meanings of words, then we are talking about the differences between semantics and pragmatics, because when we say pragmatics is what the speaker intends a word to mean, while semantics deals with the study of the conventional meaning of words. So, for example, when we say low calorie, when we talk about associations, what is the association that is attached to low calorie? When we say this is low calorie food and sugar-free food. Okay, so it's if you think of low calorie, it means that food that has very few or that doesn't have a lot of calories. And then when you think of this expression, you say it means healthy. So healthy is not the exact meaning of a low calorie, but this is when we say low, semantically, it means food with fewer calories. So individuals might mean it healthy. So got a tap in the Iraqi slang, you know. This is one of the funny examples. So you get a tap. So this is where the word tap here has a different meaning, and we see here that, as I said before, we've got the psychological context. For example, what the speaker thinks of a certain word due to his past experience. For example, he attaches, for example, a flower with love or with pain, or maybe something disgusting. But again, we've got another type of context, which is the cultural one. In the Iraqi culture, this is a context. So we might mean the word tap here has a different meaning in the Iraqi context. So now you need to think of which aspects of meanings are we semantic linguists concerned with, and maybe think of similar examples that similar to the ones above. Got a tap or similar ones, even if they are coming in your own culture, that's fine. Try to think of at least one example. That will be enough. Now, before we move on, we need to deal with the conceptual and associative meaning. Okay, but before that, we said we've got the objective meaning and the local meaning. The local, it means the subjective. That's the meaning that a speaker individually attaches to a word. But are there other types of meaning? Do words always have one meaning? Yeah, we've got the conceptual meaning. This is when we talk about conceptual, the concepts. This is the core sense of the word. For example, needle here in a dictionary, it's the thin, sharp instrument. But imagine when you were very young and you take, for example, injection, or you take, for example, antibiotic, and then you get frightened because it's painful. So that's not the exact meaning of the needle, but the moment you hear it, you will remember an experience you don't like to relive again. So here, when we talk about needle as a thin instrument, then this is the conceptual meaning. But the associative meaning is when you associate the word needle with pain, with illness, and especially when for example, if you learn knitting at an early age, you will remember your childhood where you used to knit with a needle. So it depends on how you lived, what kind of experience that the word needle reminds you of. So with association, we are talking about connotation, affective meaning, and that's the meaning that goes beyond the dictionary to add the subtext to a word when it is used. A very important thing, ladies, it's always necessary to know the difference between the literal meaning of words, the conceptual one, and the associations it has before using it. Because you need to dispel any misunderstanding, any offense before using that word, because sometimes you might use a word in a certain culture and then you might be offending someone without even knowing. So you need to be very careful in using, especially when you live in a different culture. You might accidentally put it out a word that, for example, loaded with negatives or stereotypes about a certain group of people. For example, Negros, black. We don't say the word black for people who have dark complexion, or we might say brown. So the way the moment you say the word black, you offend them, and that's not nice. So black means, okay, the color, the conceptual meaning is that it's a color, but the associative meaning is offensive to people who are considered to be of black complexion. Okay, associations differ from one person to another, and from different to another. That's why you need to be careful. Okay, before we move on, let's think of these sentences. The table listens to the radio, and the horse is reading a book. Do you think that these sentences are acceptable? Some of you, I guess, say yes, some of you say no, and I believe that the majority of you are saying no. Okay, the sentence at the syntactic level is acceptable because we've got a subject, verb, object, and for example, the destination here. But semantically, it sounds odd. Semantically, it sounds odd. So this oddness results from not accounting for using words that don't have the semantic features required for the action of the verb. For example, for the word table to be able to listen, it needs at least to have an ear, and it should be human, right? Or animate. So in order to, a table can't listen to a radio. So we see sentences like these are syntactically good, but semantically odd. When we think of another sentence, you see for example here, we may be able to identify the source of the problem. So when I say, let's say the hamburger ate the man, it should be the man who ate the hamburger, because hamburger can't eat, it's eaten. So these are the components. So when we say a table should have an ear, should be animate, should be human, are part of the conceptual meaning. These are the components of conceptual meaning of the noun. And this approach is called the container. We're thinking of words like it's containing. So a table should contain an air, and should contain the quality of being a human, moving object. Okay. So when we think of these components, we would make that, that problem a bit easier, and preventing using any kind of sentences that are semantically odd. For example, here, the noun that can be, the subject of the verb listens must denote an entity that is capable of listening. And here the word table does not. Okay, so when we think of these components of meaning, we are talking about the semantic features. Look at this example. We are supposed to have the word here, the noun, who is reading a newspaper. Let's see these sentences. Table, horse, boy, man, girl, woman. So a table is animate, so it's not inanimate, so it's minus. And the table is not human, minus. A table is not female, and it's not an adult, so it's minus. So it cannot be reading. A horse is animate, but it's not a human. And a horse can be adult as well. With a boy can read. And it's animate, human, and it's not a female. And a boy can be adult, by the way. A boy is not an adult yet. A man can be adult, and a man cannot be female, but can be animate and human. So these are the semantic features attached to these meanings, to the words, that makes them capable of doing the action of reading. So this is an approach of semantic analysis, that we think of the word as container of these features. Okay. So here we are. By doing this exercise, by doing this kind of analysis, we can see that these words, features such as animate, inanimate, human, plus a human, minus human, plus female, minus female, all these can be treated as the basic elements involved in differentiating the meaning of each of these words in a language from other word. And again, to provide the crucial features of the meanings of a set of English words such as table, boy, we can look at this diagram and see how these features are, made explicit. So looking at this table, we know now that the meaning of the word, for example, Girl involves the element plus human plus female, but she's not an adult. So we can characterize the features required in a noun in order for it to appear as the subject of a particular verb. When we say the noun that can be reading, it should be human, regardless of human minus a positive human. So we can characterize. But this approach here gives us the ability to protect what now makes this sentence semantically odd. And these are table, horse, hamburger, because most of these have, they don't have the required feature that enables it of reading. So do you think that this approach has a problem? Is it an adequate approach? Is it without problems? Yes, it is with the problems, because there are words, ladies, that cannot be, you can't say whether it's you can't say if it's male or female. For example, transgender. And this is something that develops throughout time. Yeah, I mean, we don't have the word transgender, like, let's say 50 years ago. But now we do. And with the transgender, it's a bit, kind of debatable which kind of gender is attached to that word. So we might have other words like, for example, that are difficult, difficult to assign these semantic features. So, for example, when we talk about advise, threat, warning, we can't attach any of these features a human, inhuman, or so. This approach may not be very successful in terms of taking into consideration certain words. And the other part of the problem is that it involves a view of the words as containers carrying meaning components, and there is clearly more than just components. Sometimes words can play roles, and I'm not saying that we can delete this approach, but it might, be supported by the approach of semantic roles. So instead of thinking of words as container of meanings, we can look of them as being fulfilling certain tasks, certain role. For example, when you say the boy kicked the ball here, we can analyze this sentence depending on the semantic role of the elements, the subject and object. So look here, for example, the boy is the person who is responsible for kicking the ball. So in this way, boy is an agent. And we've got another theme, which is the patient or theme. This is attached to the ball. The theme or the patient, ladies, is the role that, or the word that is affected by the action of the verb, or being received. It is sometimes it is affected or involved in the action. So, for example, here the boy is simply described as not performing the action, but as being the one that received that action. And the word ball again can be described as theme when we have a description, like the predicate of the sentence is involves or expresses a feature attached to that entity. So the ball is red, and red is used to describe the ball. In this way, the ball is considered a theme. So these are only two, but are there more? Yes, there are more, and you need to be very careful, because sometimes you might be given sentences and you are asked to assign semantic roles for each word in the sentence. So let's look at agents and themes. So agents are, as we said, if you go back to the dictionary and if you go back to the definition of key terms at the end of your book, you will know that an agent is the entity that performs an action, and the theme is an entity that is involved and affected by the action. So, or being described by an action. So here, agents and themes are semantic roles, but with agents are typically, these are very important, because this simplifies how you how you assign the role of agent to sentence elements. So we always say that agents are typically human, but they can be non-human. For example, here, the boy kicked the ball. Yes, the boy is human. Look here, why we said that this approach supposes the semantic features. Because yes, we are talking about human entities. Okay, so the boy kicked the ball, and when you look at the wind blew the ball away. So it looks like as if the wind kicked the ball, but with a blow. Okay, so here, yes, the wind is an agent, and it is non-human. When you look at sentences like this, yes, it's not. There is no problem in assigning the role of agent to the word wind. When we go to themes are the opposites. They are typically non-human, but sometimes can be human. So when we say the boy chased the dog and the dog chased the boy, both are acceptable. So here, for example, when we are talking about, it happens sometimes that, an entity can have both roles. It can be the theme and can be the agent. So when you say the boy cut himself, here the boy is the agent and himself is the theme. Other semantic roles are instrument and experiencer. An instrument, the meaning of the word is the semantic meaning of the conventional meaning of the word instrument is something that you use to do something, right? So for example, you can say you cut your hair with a scissors, and you might say with a knife. You might say, so this is an instrument. So instrument's an entity that an agent uses to perform an action. So that entity fills the role of an instrument. So when you say the boy cut himself with a rope, or the rope with a razor, or he drew the picture with a crayon, here these noun phrases are being used in the semantic role of instrument. Talking of experience, it's as the term suggests, it has to do with experience. And experience can have to do with your seeing, hearing, maybe feeling as well. So noun phrases that are used to designate an entity, a person, as the person whose feeling, perception, state here fills the entity, the semantic role of experiencer. So for example, when you talk about see, enjoy something, so the boy feels sad. And did you hear that noise? So it has something with the experience. So here, you is the experiencer. Other semantic roles are location, source, and goal. Location, as it suggests, place, source. And by the way, a source is again a goal. It could be place. So look here. Location designates an entity that describes an event. That is when an entity is in the description of an event. Like on the table. When we say the book is on the table. Or source, where the entity moves it from. And goal, where the entity moves to. So we drove from Chicago to New Orleans. So New Orleans is a source. Sorry, Chicago is the source, and New Orleans is the is the goal. When we talk of transferring money from saving to checking, again, it doesn't have to be destination or place. So because this example here suggests that it's anywhere that fulfills the role of location or role of source or goal. So I transfer the money from saving to checking. Saving is a source and checking is the goal. So please, your assignment now, your second assignment, is that you write sentences of your own, or you just go and find any sentence and you try to assign these roles to the sentences you've selected. It's very essential that you practice, ladies, because without practice you will not be able to do that kind of analysis. So you need to work with the definitions, and you go thoroughly and understand every bit of information listed there. And you should try to at least learn after that to attach the semantic roles fulfilled by every word in a sentence. And this is the second approach of semantic analysis. Are there any? Yes. You might, instead of thinking of them of words as containers or as fulfilling roles, we might describe the meaning of each word in terms of its relationship to other words. And this is when we talk about lexical relations, because we are talking about how these lexical words are related to each other. So they can be explained not in terms of their component features, but in terms of their relationship. So conceal means hide, and wide means the opposite of narrow. Or maybe you can say of a rose or a daffodil as a type of, or as a kind of a flower. So attaching meaning or semantic, this approach of semantic description is it accounts essentially for the relationship of this word, of a certain word, to other words to which it is connected. Starting with the first lexical relation, we've got synonymy. Okay, so for example, here if you look at the words cab and taxi, both of them are acceptable, and both of them are filling the same role. And maybe one of you says, okay, cab is American and taxi is British, or the other, or maybe vice versa. So when you say cab is American, taxi is British, this is context, and context is very important for every kind of analysis, every linguistic analysis, because you always go back to what's the background component of a word, what's available. Okay, so here we've got two words related with a closely related meaning, but not fully substituted. The meaning is related, but not substitutable. Because if you go to America and you say taxi, you might sound kind of awkward or odd. So you say cab. So yes, it's acceptable to use a cab instead of a taxi, and vice versa, but it's not fully substituted. Or you might say hide does not always mean conceal. Or when you say this is small, it doesn't mean that it is very small, because you might say describe an object as being small, but still that doesn't mean that's very tiny. So it doesn't mean the kind of meaning when we talk about synonyms, we are talking about closely related meaning but not fully substituted. If you look at this sentence, she had one answer correct in the test. And if you say she had one reply correct in the test, the word reply is odd. It wouldn't serve in the context of this sentence. So again, meanings of words can differ in terms of formality and informality, because, for example, you might say, I'd like to purchase a dress, and you might say, I'd like to buy a dress. Both are acceptable, both are correct, but sometimes you find that formality plays a role in attaching the correct relation. So if you say large automobile, this is when you write, for example, an academic test, you can't say big car. You should say large car, because big does not sound academic. So you need to make sure when you write your graduation projects paper, you should be careful that you use academic language. You can't say big, you should say large. And that's what I mean when I say that the meaning of words is closely related, but it's not fully substituted. Going to antonyms, this is where two forms with opposite meaning, happy and sad. And okay, again, this is not fully, opposite meanings. That's why we've got words with fully opposite and words with not very, you can't say that they are fully the opposites, like the black yes, the dead is the opposite of alive, but it's not. But when you say it's bigger than you, doesn't mean that it's smaller. So this distinction has to do with the gradability and non-gradability of these antonyms. So when we say gradable antonyms, we are talking about words that are used in comparative constructions, like the pony is smaller than a horse, and I'm bigger than you. But when we say the non-gradable or the complementary pairs, these are not used in comparison, because we can't say somebody is deader than someone else. So dead cannot be, we can't say deader, because an entity is either dead or alive. So this is called non-gradable pair. And the negative of dead does not necessarily mean the opposite. So if you say he's not dead, it doesn't mean he's alive. It means that he's alive. So think of, please, now think of antonyms that are gradable and non-gradable. That's the second assignment. Try to find examples, maybe and you can use a dictionary as well. You can see the gradable and non-gradable, and you can choose and select certain words or pairs, and you attach to them the feature of gradability. Is it gradable or non-gradable? Thank you very much for today.